Welcome back, csc200 class, to part 2 of our states database. We're going to be doing some queries here in part 2, and this should be easy. It should be review of queries. We're just using a different database, and we can write our queries in our SQL file. Just remember, if you have an asterisk here, that means it's not saved, so you should save stuff. Otherwise, if you don't, it'll say, are you sure you want to leave? So make sure you keep this up to date and try to get all your queries in here, because that way I can see everything you did by looking here. Even if for some reason you don't have your console output, I could look at all your queries and I could always run your queries and in a new console and just try them out. But make sure you do stuff here, or if you put it in another, if you do it in another editor, maybe just paste them in here. If you're working in VS Code or something, if you like that, because it does a better job of working with quotes and things like that, you could just paste it in here. That way I see all your queries for your states. So what I'm going to do in here in my SQL is I'm going to start with some queries, and the first thing we'll do is we'll show states. And actually, let's just look at our states, and they're right now in order of the way they came into the union, and we're going to do them by population right now to see the most populated states. You can see a couple here that are over a million. Well, some of them are a million, because remember, 6 digits is going to be right before a million. So once it goes to 7 digits, that gets to a million. Some of these have 8 digits, which mean they're over 10 million or so. There's a couple like that. So except for Delaware and maybe Vermont, some small states are probably over a million. So we're going to look at the states that are most populated over 10 million and see how many they are. And then you could always limit it after that, but let's try that out first. Let's do a little query to get back to our query. So we're going to go back to my SQL file, and I'll go up here and copy this. And we can put some different things in here instead of just doing all. Not that we don't have a lot of columns, so it's not a big deal. But I'm going to do select, I'll do the state, because I'm not worried about the order. I'm just going to do the state, the abbreviation, because I like the way it looks with the abbreviation, and the population. I can even put a comment here if I want. You could use these slash asterisk if you want. And you have to finish it off. That's why everything's still green here. I'll say pop greater than 10 million. And I'm going to finish it off with an asterisk slash. Gets its color back. So we're going to show these 3 columns. It's going to be from states. And we're going to say where, we're going to use our filter, where pop is greater than 10 million. And I'll do a 10, and then I'll do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Because I know it's hard to see sometimes without commas, but we know that if there's 6 zeros, that's a million, that's 1 million, so I'm putting 10 in front of that, so that's 10 million. And then we'll order by population, so I'll do an order by, and I'll do it descending, so it's the largest one first, DESC. And even if you wanted to change this and say, as population, and remember, you don't have to use quotes unless it's more than one word. I don't think it matters if you do put a quote, but we'll put population there. And I'll break this so it looks nicer. I usually do a shift return when I do that. I don't think it matters, but I always try to do a shift return like a line break when I break that. So I want to keep it nice and narrow here, and we'll try this out. And again, I'm not going to put the comment in there because I have it here. I don't need it in my code. Let's try it out. Let's copy it. I'll go down to the bottom here. I'll paste it. See if we get any errors. And no errors. So we have only the ones that are above 10 million. And how many are above 10 million? I don't know. I could count them. And it says 10 rows here. But remember, we do have that count function. And again, what do we want to do? We want to count them. So that's just going to give one value. It'll just count how many there are. And I can say, I don't even have to put population. Actually, I don't have to say any. I can just go here and say count. And I'll just put over 10M here from states. And I think I could keep the same filter where population is greater than. So I'm counting. We want to count the state. Count how many states have the population. So let's try this. So we're going to count how many states have a population over 10. Now we just saw there's 10, but this way, we saw 10 by the records. But let's just try this out. See what happens here. And I have an error. I didn't put in my quotes here because I have more than one word. I'll go back, paste that. And there it says. There are 10 states with population over. So we're just getting that one value. That's all that count is giving us right there. And another thing you could do is you could say, what is the population? We have 10 million from 10 states. That's a lot of people. How many people in our whole country? We can do something called a sum. There's actually a sum function that we could use. And we could do it very similar to this, except I don't think we have to filter it as much. Instead of count, we're going to do something called sum. And we're just going to sum up the population, almost like doing a little function. So it's going to sum up all the populations but we're going to do all 50 states. And I'll just say population of US, and it's 50 states, but I'll just put US. And we don't need any filters here, so I'll just say from states. So I'll delete all this where and order by and all that. We didn't need the order by or anything there either. We could have taken that out, so I could have taken that out there as well for that. So I'll just clean that up since that's the way I should have done it. And let's see what this looks like. It's just one quick line here. We're just doing a sum of the population of all the states. And I have to break this up here, but there's like 330 million people in our country. Let's do a couple other things here with our queries. We're going to check out the first 13 colonies, and that's an easy one. And some of these I'm just going to throw things on the instructions for you to figure out. If you wanted to see the first 13 colonies, what do I want to put here for colonies? I could put all the stuff. I may not want to put size or anything like that, so I may do state, and I do want to do order ID, so I'll do order ID. State, abbreviation. I'm not going to do population. Maybe I'll just do size. And there's different ways you could do this. You can order it by size and say limit 13, or you can you could do it two ways. You can say from states, and I could say limit 13, or I could do this, and again, it's going to do the same thing. I could do one where I say where, and it would be order ID is less than 14. So both of these should do the same thing. So let's just make sure they do, but again, we're just showing 4 columns here. So I'll do this one, and we'll look at the first 13 colonies. And there they are. Now they're in their order that we see, but we may want to check out which ones are the biggest, which ones are the smallest. And just to make sure that this one works too, this should do the same exact thing. And it does. That looks exactly the same. And then if we want to order it maybe by size, I'll use this one here where ID is less than 14, and I'll just say order by size. And depending on if you want the largest one first, you would say descending. And if you want the smallest first, you would say ascending. And it defaults to ascending with ASC. So I'm going to do descending. So I see the largest states out of the 13 colonies, and I'll highlight these, copy them, paste them, and there they are. So Georgia, New York, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and so on, and some of the New England states and New Jersey are the smaller ones in terms of physical size, Rhode Island being the smallest state, Delaware being second. Now, if we wanted to figure out what the largest states are in the country, we could do something similar to this. We'll see what the biggest states are. Of course, things like Texas and Alaska and stuff like that. So I'll put this in here, and I'll say order by size, except I'll take away this where statement, and I'll just select them all, and I'll say order by size, and then I'll say limit. I'll do that as the last thing. I'll say limit 5, because I don't want to see them all. I just want to see the top 5. So I want to take all the states by their order ID, state, abbreviation, and I don't even know if I need order ID. I don't know if that's necessary. We'll just say state, abbreviation, and size from states, and we'll say order by, and we'll go by descending, so we'll see the largest first. And we'll limit it to 5. So we have the 5 largest states. So I imagine it's going to be Alaska, Texas, maybe California or something. I'm not even that sure. So let's check it out. And there's the top 5. Alaska, Texas, California, Montana, and New Mexico are the top 5 states. So you could check out anything you want from these things. The newest states, anything like that, I'll probably give you a couple on the instructions. So look on the instructions. So I'm not just going to have you do the same ones I do here. I'll have you do find out a couple things. So you learn something about our states. So that's what I'll do that'll be on your instructions for part 1, which is working with the states. And the next video that we're going to do after doing these queries here is we're going to build our cities table. We're going to create it, and we're going to insert our cities into there. And we're going to do that with a foreign key. So that'll take a little bit of work, a little bit more work than it took with states. So we're going to do that in part 3. So that's just your queries that we did with the states in part 2. And again, when you come back here, make sure that you save this. And if you're going to take a break, I should mention this too. If you're going to take a break at any time, and now may be a good time to do this, is to highlight everything. And what I'll usually recommend is going to the top or your first line here, wherever you kind of started. You could start here, and I think you could double click or just click. And if you go to the bottom and shift click, and then just copy all that. That selects all, but then you got to do a copy, do Control C or Command C. And then you're not going to paste it here. That's where you're actually going to put it into your console text. So I'm going to save this so I have it. And then maybe what we'll do is we'll work in our cities working code. We have a cities working code. And then you could just go back in here. Once you save this, you could just navigate back to the same folder. And remember, these are all the things you're working with. And I'll go to the console, and there's nothing here. And I'll just paste what I have so far. That way, if you go to do something and, you get locked out or something, at least you have all your stuff here. So you could save it. And you could just keep putting stuff here, because I'll see what they are once you go through them. There's no limit here that you have to put. So I'll save that. So that's your console output, and that's saved. So everything I just did is saved. Even if I couldn't get in your console, everything's saved there. So that's fine. And remember, when you want to get back in your console, we'll just go back to your consoles and click on that to do that. And we'll do more with cities in part 3.